Chapter 1. Key Influence. Layla sank back into the plush leather seats of the sedan Uber car, exhaling slowly as the city lights blurred past. She had just wrapped up another late-night Instagram live stream, where the fans had gone wild over the new Chanel purse she flaunted. Just a little gift from a secret admirer, she purred coyly, reveling in the thrill of 50,000 viewers oohing and ahhing. As one of Ghana's top social media stars, her schedule was non-stop parties, shoots, and events. She scrolled idly through her notifications, pondering the trajectory of her success. Abruptly, the sedan jerked to a halt. Up ahead, a massive tree trunk lay across the narrow dirt road, surrounded by shadowy figures. The Uber driver quickly slammed the car into reverse, tires spitting gravel as they careened back. Before they could turn around, a large rock came hurling through the driver's side window. It struck his temple with a sickening crack, and he slumped over the wheel. The car swerved wildly. Layla grabbed the wheel, trying to steer. They had only gone a short distance when she felt the pop of both tires blowing out. The car skidded to a stop in a cloud of dust. Heart pounding, Layla looked around in panic. 4 figures approached, silhouetted in the headlights and wielding various weapons. One casually bent to pick up another rock. "Get out! Run!" the Uber driver grunted, clutching his bleeding head. Layla burst out of the car and fled into the forest. Branches whipping her face and arms, she could hear her pursuers gaining, their footsteps crunching on the underground, tears streaming from her face as she ran. Ahead, she spotted a towering baobab tree and stopped short of it. Her chest heaved from exertion as the figures surrounded her silently. "What do you want?" she pleaded. "Please just leave me alone." "Just leave me alone," pursuers said playfully in response. They stared excitedly, weapons glinting in the moonlight, filtering through the canopy. As she leaned into the ancient tree, a strange energy jolted through her body. The figures paused, glancing around warily as a gust of wind swirled, gathering leaves and debris. It encircled Layla, funneling into her open mouth. She croaked as an unforeseen force filled her lungs. Her limbs twitched, then stilled. When she raised her head, the figures stumbled back in shock. Layla's eyes glowed crimson, and her voice rang out unnaturally deep. "Freedom!" she thundered. The attackers paused, then laughed. One grabbed her arm. With inhumane strength, Layla wrenched free. She seized the man's neck, crushing his windpipe. His companions rushed in. She grabbed another attacker's arm, snapping it like a twig. The others turned to flee, but she overtook them easily, leaving their broken bodies strewn on the forest floor. Exhausted, the ancient spirit receded. Layla sank to her knees, released from the spirit's hold. Layla stared in shock at the carnage surrounding her. Dazed, she stumbled from the woods and flagged down a taxi. At her family's lavish Westlands home, she slipped inside unseen, washing the dirt and blood from her skin. It had to be a nightmare. She just needed rest. She convinced herself it was all a hallucination from fatigue. As she slept, the dark spirit Obimpe regained strength and possessed her again. Gliding stealthily through the halls, it visited each family member's room in turn. For a moment, Layla is able to take back possession of her body and sees the corpses of her families. Layla's scream echoed through the silent night. "They're dead!" She screamed over and over again, crying for someone to call the police. Obimpe had regained enough strength to possess her once more, shattering a nearby window. The spirit flew off in her stolen body into the silent night. Chapter 2. The Eagle and the Hunter. Night Eagle glided silently over the gleaming city streets of Accra, the cool night air whipping past her face. Police sirens wailed faintly in the distance as she cataloged each darkened alley and rooftop for signs of illegal activity. It was her nightly patrol, using an arsenal of gadgets and her jetpack glider to hunt down the dangerous new designer drug called Bliss that had invaded her city. She hated seeing her city poisoned like this. But over the past 5 years, the police could only do so much without solid leads, which is where Night Eagle came in. Her extensive street informant network had tipped her off that a major new shipment of Bliss was arriving at Timor Harbor tonight. Tonight would not be a time for stealthy sneak attacks. She was going in hard and fast to send a message that the reign of Bliss ended now. As she landed atop a warehouse, boots thudding on the roof, she caught sight of Ernest Adusi strutting below, flanked by his usual retinue of armed goons. She knew Adusi headed up distribution for the Bliss cartel throughout the city, but now she had evidence to catch him red-handed. Taken down, and the entire network would crumble. Night Eagle leaped from the rooftop, boots slamming into Ernest's shoulders and knocking him flat on his back with a pained grunt. Blood spurted from his broken nose. His goons shouted in alarm and scrambled surrounding their boss, weapons drawn. Unable to risk shooting so close to Ernest, they instead charged at Night Eagle barehanded. She bared her teeth in a fierce grin beneath her slick black mask. This was too easy. She launched herself at the 3 biggest goons first, propelling her electrically charged fists and feet into pressure points that caused instant paralysis. The men collapsed, limbs twitching uselessly. The remaining goons hesitated, eyes wide with fear. "Who's next?" Night Eagle growled, beckoning them forward. She did not hold back, using her enhanced gear to turn each strike more devastating than the last. In mere minutes, she had incapacitated over a dozen hardened criminals, leaving them moaning on the ground, cradling broken bones and oozing contusions. At last, only Ernest remained. He scrambled backwards along the concrete dock, blubbering pleas of mercy obscured by the blood gushing from his mangled nose. Night Eagle stalked towards him, eyes cold beneath her mask. She hauled him up by the front of his shirt, drawing back her fist for a blow that would knock his teeth down his throat. Suddenly, her headgear emitted an urgent beep. New information was streaming in from her network of informants. There was a report of panic and possible murder at an apartment building in Accra's upscale Westlands neighborhood. A killer could even now be at large in the streets. Night Eagle froze, Ernest stilled from her grip. Every minute counted if a murderer was on the loose. After months of tracking Ernest, she finally had him cornered. Making a decision, she slammed Ernest face first into the nearest cargo container. He slumped over, out cold. After restraining him thoroughly with zip ties, Night Eagle fired up her jetpack and blasted into the sky. She radioed an anonymous tip to the police about Ernest's location as she rocketed towards Westlands. Upon arriving at the sleek apartment building, Night Eagle swooped to the balcony indicated in the alert. Peering inside, she realized with a jolt that this was no ordinary killing. Wet blood marred the walls of the lavish condo. The withered corpses of the owners lay contorted on the floor, drained of life force. Night Eagle's blood ran cold. This was the work of no mere human criminal. She was dealing with magic that she had no experience with. After photographing the scene thoroughly, she began running searches in her database to cross-reference the arcane symbols. The symbols did not match anything her AI knew of, but her AI suggested that another magic user was in town, and she could investigate as a lead. And though she was a critical thinker, she did not doubt this story. According to accounts, he had retired from his trade and passed into obscurity. But Night Eagle thought his arrival in the city last week was too convenient. Fury rising, she fired up her jetpack and rocketed across town toward the suburb of a Shamang estate. She had already studied floor plans of the entire building, where Tahazi rented a unit in preparation for a time like this. Rather than waste time knocking, Night Eagle crashed feet first through his living room window in a spray of glass. He sat calmly on a mat, deep in meditation, surprised by the intrusion. Her fist was already swinging towards Tahazi's face. He blocked the blow with a hand, face etched in confusion rather than guilt. "Stop!" he yelled, grabbing her other arm as she struck him again. With blinding speed, she attacked. But the immortal warrior was ready, deftly evading her blows as furniture shattered around him. They exchanged strikes and blows and blocks, Tahazi clearly holding back. After a well-placed electric punch from Night Eagle knocks Tahazi down, he decides that's enough. He says an incantation as Night Eagle returns for another strike. He foot sweeps her, and his magic holds her midair. "Are you ready to talk?" he asks. Night Eagle stops struggling to move, chest heaving. "Explain the Westlands murder," she spat. "Your magic is all over it." Tahazi's eyes widen. "Westlands? I haven't been anywhere near there." He carefully lays her back on the floor, and she quickly stands to her feet. Night Eagle studied his face, searching for any hint of deception, muscles still tense for action. "Prove it then," she demanded. "Because if you can't, I will take you down." Tahazi nodded. "I know psychometry." Reading the energy prints left on, Night Eagle interjected. "I know what psychometry is." Night Eagle considered, then reluctantly offered a small blood-stained fragment she had chopped from the wall. Tahazi closed his eyes, palm pressed over the chip. Tahazi was now able to show Night Eagle what had happened, revealing the feminine figure of Layla consuming the life force of her parents. Night Eagle was horrified. If not him, then who or what was responsible? "I have never been to that place," he said firmly, "but the dark energy I sense there is unmistakable." Night Eagle stared at him, mind racing. She had acted rashly, almost making an enemy of the wrong man. There were clearly greater forces at work here than she had realized. "You will need my help with this," he continued. "I know more about these mystical forces than you." Though reluctant, Night Eagle agreed to the alliance. "I will need to prepare." He disappeared into a chamber and emerged soon after bearing a bow, clearly an ancient and mystical relic from his past. Night Eagle raised an eyebrow behind her mask, reassessing just how powerful this immortal warrior could be. For the first time in over 400 long years, Tahazi donned the armor of the legendary Red Hunter. Though relaxed in demeanor, his eyes now burned with a deep-seated intensity. Night Eagle raised an eyebrow at the sight. "That's a fancy get-up. Will it help us track down this killer?" "With my encoche, yes," Tahazi replied. He pulls the string of his bow, and a mystical arrow forms up in it, to Night Eagle's surprise. He aims the arrow around the room slowly, as though looking for a sweet spot. The arrow turns fiery red when it faces Night Eagle's forehead. She tenses, but Tahazi tells her to step out of the way. He continues aiming the bow where Night Eagle was standing. The arrow remains fiery red. "A demigod," Tahazi muttered. Night Eagle asks, "Demigod? You mean like Perseus and Hercules?" "Obempe," Tahazi exclaimed angrily as he lowered his bow. "Who is Obempe?" Meeting her gaze, Tahazi said, "Tonight, you must prepare yourself for something beyond the capabilities of a mere mortal." Night Eagle scoffed. "Mortal? Don't underestimate me, old-timer. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve." She patted the multi-purpose utility belt around her waist. Tahazi nodded, a glimmer of amusement in his ancient eyes. Together, the unlikely duo set out into the night, the veteran vigilante gliding on jetpack wings, while the immortal warrior rode out on a roaring motorcycle below.
Chapter 3. The Harmattan Goddess. The night had now turned to dawn as one half of the city rose, The other half prepared to go back to sleep. Night Eagle was supposed to be part of the latter half, but not tonight. She followed Tohazi as he following the dark energy that still lingered after Obimpe's possession of Layla. They had reached the bustling open-air A&C mall at East Legon, tensed, ready for confrontation as they wove between crowded party people, either ending the night or just getting started. Those who saw them were either very surprised or too drunk to make sense of it. There, Tohazi pointed at one of the restaurants that had been open all night. Night Eagle pulled Tohazi aside and said, "Remember, our goal is to save Layla while stopping Obimpe. We need to draw out the goddess without harming the girl." Tohazi nodded in agreement. Up ahead loomed an expansive restaurant, and as they drew closer, Night Eagle noticed the diner's sluggish movements. "Obimpe!" Tohazi growled, pulling back a mystical arrow from his bow. At the center table, the possessed body of Layla sat smiling coldly, one hand outstretched and pulsating with unnatural energy. The last patrons slumped over, husks of themselves. Layla's head turned, crimson eyes fixing on the newcomers. "Come, sit. I just finished with these ones," Obimpe spoke through Layla's lips. Night Eagle barked, "This ends now, Obimpe. Release the girl!" Obimpe flung out Layla's arms, a roaring blast of Harmattan winds launching towards them. They dove apart, the dry wind scouring skin and scattering debris. Tohazi leapt up onto a table, losing an arrow crackling with blue energy. Obimpe dodged it easily. Night Eagle exclaimed, "I said we need to free the girl." "I know," Tohazi replied. "I'm only using not deadly arrows." Night Eagle rolled behind the bar, grabbing a discarded beer bottle from the neck. Obimpe threw back her head and cackled. "I am a goddess. I will feast on your soul." The disembodied voice seemed to come from everywhere. "You cannot stop me." Obimpe's taunt was cut short as she received the bottle that Night Eagle hurled at her head. She crashed backwards through chairs and tables. "Did you know what to free the girl on hot?" Tohazi asked in surprise. "That was a distraction," Night Eagle replied. "She wasn't fast enough." "You dare challenge me, fools!" Obimpe hissed, hands already gathering tongues of wind and sand that howled dangerously. With blinding speed, Obimpe hurled two roaring funnels of Harmattan wind straight at her opponent. Night Eagle dove and rolled, narrowly avoiding the focus game. It exploded the table behind her into splinters. Tohazi shoots an ethereal arrow at Obimpe, which deflects the assault. He then counters with 3 more arrows in rapid succession. Obimpe easily battled the projectiles aside and thrust both palms forward. The shockwaves rippled out, hurling Night Eagle and Tohazi backwards. They slammed hard into the restaurant's brick walls. The wind knocked out to them. She lazily flicked the wrist. Swirling Harmattan coalesced into a spear of hardened wind and sand. With terrifying speed, it pierced through Tohazi's shoulder in a spray of blood. He cried out and dropped to one knee. Night Eagle fired her grappling hook to yank Tohazi out of the line. More wind spears followed. She helped him take cover behind a demolished bar. "This isn't looking good," Night Eagle said grimly. "We need to try something different before she kills us both." Tohazi grimaced and joked. "Do you still have that trick up your sleeve?" "I do, actually. I just don't like to use it often," Night Eagle replies as she taps on her headgear. "Bring the light," Night Eagle says to the AI in her mask. "At once," the AI assistant replies. Skidding across the ruined floor, Night Eagle spotted a streak approaching, coalescing into the form of Lightspeed. "Need a hand?" Lightspeed quipped to her. Not waiting for a response, she shot towards Tohazi in a blur. "Lightspeed, at your service. I see you started the party without me," she said, giving a mocking salute to Tohazi's direction. "Lightspeed, meet Tohazi," Night Eagle said. "Wait, the same Tohazi you spoke about? The Red Hunter Tohazi?" It's an honor to meet someone as ancient, as mature, as historical as yourself. Before he would reply, she eyes his mystical bow and says, "Is that a legendary question? I've heard every pool of the bow ages the archer by 1 year. Is that true?" Bimper shoots a blast at light speed, which she easily dodged before zipping to stand in front of Layla. "I thought you would be bigger, but you kind of look like that social media influencer Layla." Bimper shot another blast at Lightspeed. Lightspeed ran back to her allies and asked, "Is that why you're the only one who can use this bow? Because you can't age? I think that's so cool. You're so cool. It's nice to meet you, sir." "Nice to meet you, Lightspeed," Tohazi said. "We need to distract her and get those civilians safely," pointing to a small group of staff members still huddled under the tables. "Can you handle crowd control?" Lightspeed grinned. "Please, I can evacuate this whole block in 10 seconds flat. Start counting. 10, 9. In the blink, she was zooming from table to table, gently helping people to their feet and rushing them outside at impossible speed. In seconds, the restaurant was empty but for the three heroes and Obimpe. Lightspeed runs to face Layla again. "Let's see how well you can dance," Lightspeed taunted playfully. She began running circles around Obimpe, once again kicking up a tornado of plates and cutlery that obscured the deity's vision. Moving almost too fast to see, Lightspeed created a whirlwind around Obimpe, trying to confuse her. But with another blast, Obimpe dissolved the winds. But Lightspeed was too quick, landing hundreds of rapid-fire slaps as she encircled Obimpe. "Let the girl go!" The impact forced the goddess back, step by step, till she stumbled and fell back. Furiously shooting her blast around randomly, Obimpe gets a lucky shot with her Hamatan blast that hits Lightspeed. Lightspeed immediately starts to shiver, turning ashy pale, stumbles, falling over a table. Night Eagle tries to go to Lightspeed's aid, but Obimpe shoots another blast at her, which forces her to hide again. "We've got to end this quickly," Night Eagle yelled to Tohazi as she ducked for cover again. "Working on it," Tohazi replied as he etched glowing mystical symbols into the ground. Obimpe pounced, grabbing Lightspeed by the neck. "Fools!" Obimpe snarled through Layla's mouth. "I am beyond you all!" Night Eagle dove in desperately once again, but Obimpe swatted her aside like an insect. Lightspeed's legs kicked uselessly as she turned purple. "Now you shall bleed your last!" Obimpe shouted. Oh, come on, the dialogue is so generic. "Now you shall bleed your last," Obimpe said. At that same moment, Tohazi came out of hiding, stamped his foot, activating the glowing mystical symbols he had drawn on the restaurant floor. The goddess recoiled as if she recognized the seals. Tohazi's voice rang out in an ancient tongue. "Obimpe, we don't need you." He slammed both palms down in the glowing ritual circle. Blinding light erupted outward. Obimpe screamed and dropped Lightspeed. "We don't need you," Tohazi repeated in the ancient tongue. With a blood-curdling shriek, the glowing spirit of Obimpe was wrenched free from Layla's body through her mouth. The girl collapsed limply. Lightspeed dove to catch her before she hit the floor. Bimpe's spirit thrashed against the magical chains. Tohazi held open a carved gourd in one hand, continuing the incantation. Weakened, the goddess with white hair shrank smaller and smaller as she was drawn irresistibly towards Tohazi's waiting gourd. "No! I will not be caged again! Let me go!" Obimpe shrieked. "Yempel, help!" With a rush of darkness, the towering masculine spirit of Yempel appeared. His hand settled intimately on his sister's shoulder as he murmured ancient words. "I need you, Obimpe. I need you, my sister." Brother and sister clasped hands triumphantly before fading into nothingness. The ritual had failed. The demigods remained free. Night Eagle stared after the fading spirits, heart pounding. Was that her brother that interrupted the ritual? Tohazi replied, "Yes. I suppose you know about Yempel, Obimpe's twin brother. It seems they still have the power to call upon each other when needed." Just then, Lightspeed zoomed back into view. "Layla's at the hospital now, and there's 2 of the spirits now?" Lightspeed asked. "What exactly do those Harmattan gods want?" Tohazi told the tale. "I witnessed the twilight of these demigods firsthand, just about 400 years ago. Back then, the Accra clans worshipped the children of the spider god Yankopon. They were 6 pairs of twins. Ajanim and Kumi, the storm gods, stood for leadership and power. Yempel and Obimpe, the Harmattan gods, represented orphans and vagabonds. Bekwe and Bedeakun, the warrior gods, stood for war and vengeance, and there were 3 other twins. Altogether, these gods ruled the various clans and in their own time, and were each worshipped, all except Yempel and Obimpe, who were loathed. You see, no one liked the Harmattan seasons, and orphans are not known for singing praises. Even their fellow gods did not like them much. They only called on them when they had had their good times with humans. Soon, envy and hubris festered in lonely Obimpe's heart. With her brother Yempel's cunning, she sowed discord between hot-headed Kumi and his twin, the proud Ajanim. This soon turned into a civil war among the demigods. The war soon spread to even the clans that worshipped these demigods. Brother was fighting brother, father fighting son, over a squabble engineered by Obimpe and her twin. We lost so much. Through some human intervention, the demigods came to learn they had been tricked, and Obimpe was now in possession of Ajanim's god-killing weapon. It was a season of large storms and Harmattan, as the demigods fell one by one to Obimpe and Yempel. It took a daring stand and some luck to finally get the weapon away from Obimpe. They banished Obimpe into a baobab tree and imprisoned Yempel inside a rock near the sea. And as for themselves, they retreated to their fortress in the spirit dimension beyond Afajato. Tohazi shook his head wearily. If they've returned, we can only assume their ambition remains unchanged. We need to stop them.
Chapter 4. Tribal Mark. Obimpe raged along the desolate mountain path, a mist-like form swirling violently. She seethed with fury over her defeat. "Peace, sister," Yempel soothed, though his expression was taut. Obimpe rounded him, eyes flashing white. "Peace? I've a disgrace. I failed to defeat simple mortal threats." She spat acidly on the stones. "Mortals and your tricks. I should have feasted on those souls when I have a chance. That fast one especially. You've had enough of that. Consuming human life forces will only make you lazy and easily defeated by mortals and their tricks." Obimpe sneered at her brother, but he continued speaking. "Let us not forget that vessel you possessed. You degraded yourself, storing your entire form inside a dirty human vessel. She might still have some of, "Don't take up that tone with me." I had no choice of being backed. I needed to dirty myself in order to be free from that tree. She lowered her tone, looking at a distance, and continued. I did get carried away, yes, but what would you have wanted me to do? You should have come and found me immediately, he said. Together, those pesky mortals wouldn't have stood a chance. Obimpe wrenched over with a hiss. I said I got carried away, but you're here now and you still don't stand a chance. The impulse seemed hurt for a moment, but he replaced that with a smile before answering. As luck would have it, Ajanim's thunder slice remains unclaimed. Obimpe froze, stunned by this revelation. She remembered the power that the thunder slice gave her previously. She was feared and revered, even if it was only for a short time. And one of our siblings, Obimpe asked with concern on her face. You really should have come and find me first, sister. There's so much you could have done in secret before these mortals knew what was coming to them. You live in your head too much, Yempel. Tell me what I need to know, Obimpe backed. Yempel narrated to his sister that the rest of the pantheon had retreated back to their fortress beyond Afajato for 4 centuries now. Yempel shook his head, eyes glinted. You know how arrogant Ajanin is? He knew no one could draw the thunder slides from the earth, so he left it embedded within the stones of his shrine. As a dare. Obimpe turned to Yempel, mouth curling into a sly smile. What are we waiting for there, brother? Let's claim what's rightfully ours. They held up a hand. None but Ajanim himself has the strength to draw that sword from the rock. Obimpe waved dismissively. Then we'll just use our shared strength. Still not enough, Yempel interrupted. I've Obimpe's incredulous look. He elaborated. I investigated before I came to find you. Obimpe floated her arms impatiently. So how then? Yempel's eyes took on a calculating gleam. Have you heard of that boy named Kweku? Obimpe shook her head, irritated. Why did some mortal child matter? You know its name? In Lima's slums, they call him Tribal March because of the many tribal marks on his face. I just saw him lift and put my turn tro like it was just a leaf. Obimpe narrowed her eyes. So, Lima is the place where he lives, and a trocro is very heavy? Yempel shook his head and have the strength to unearth the thunder slice? Not at all, Yempel replied. But with less strength, he can at least break off the rocks surrounding the thunder slice himself. Obimpe grinned eagerly. Then let's pay this tribal mark kid a visit. The two dissolved into a mixture of wind and sand, speeding towards the city. They reformed in a filthy, crowded alley in Nima, still in ethereal forms. Raucous laughter and shouts rang out nearby. Obimpe grimaced in disgust at the overpowering mortal stench. Ugh! You're certain he's here? Yes, look. Yempel replied, pointing towards an open dirt field, ringed by dented metal sheets that acted as goal posts. Street youths played a raucous game of football. Obimpe's gaze fixed upon one in particular, a boy of no more than 12 who stood longingly on the sideline as everyone else played. As they watched, one of the footballers kicked the ball his way. With casual ease, the boy on the sideline caught the ball in his palm. All the other boys playing stopped and watched in terror. Clearly, no one wanted to be near this boy. Come, Obimpe urged. They both approached Kweku as he's about to throw the ball back. Only he could see them. His face was marked with scars that would never heal. Tribal marks. He looked surprised at their sudden presence. Who are you? He asked warily, eyes scoping for escape. Yempel gave a gentle smile. Just wondering why a gifted boy like you isn't leading these others. The boy shrugged. They don't want me to play. He tried throwing the ball again. Obimpe smoothly moved in front of him. Such talent, yet you live like this? Don't you think there's more to you than this? Haven't you ever wondered? She saw the temptation in Kweku's eyes, the appeal of being a part of something. He shifted uncertainly. Sensing victory, you've been pressed on. You, boy, you're destined to shake foundations. The others fearfully called Kweku, please give us our ball. A moment more, Kweku finally nodded to Obimpe and Yempel. He drops the football and walks away with the spirits. Obimpe smirked in satisfaction, looking at her brother. The thunder slice will soon be in her hands again. 3 of them set off together, leaving the other boys confused. Destiny awaited. Meanwhile, Nightingale hastily assembled her allies atop her hidden headquarters, nests, non-encroaching surveillance and security in tower. The secret, sleek, seemingly abandoned penthouse of a high-rise building served as her headquarters. Tohazi sat calmly, having recovered from his wounds inflicted by Obimpe. Night Eagle looked up information on her computer, while the speedster Lightspeed amused herself by dashing laps around the maze. Lightspeed stops to ask Tohazi, so you're armored, huh? I hear it runs bloody palace? Tohazi looks at her incredulously. Where did you hear that? That's what the history books say. The Red Hunter series by Professor Stephanie Bedrell. She wrote the story based on tales that her grandmother used to tell her about you. I see, Tohazi replied with a chuckle. But that's not correct. I'll be sure to let her know my thoughts on the matter.
Well, you
Aunt, she passed away last year, Lightspeed replied. Tohazi shook his head solemnly, as if the mention of death disturbed him. Lightspeed noticed and changed the topic. On the way to the nest, you said you came to Accra to see something for yourself. What could that be? She asked. Tohazi considers for a moment before shaking his head as if to dismiss what he was thinking. Night Needle stops what she was doing and also looks at Tohazi expectantly. Tohazi knew she still had her doubts about him, so he explained. There's a boy, Kweku. He has ritual marks on his face. Marks that I've only ever seen used in a very powerful, dark spell. Another demigod? Lightspeed wondered. Tohazi shook his head with uncertainty. No, unlikely. But I don't want to bring him into this. Night Eagle said. He sounds important, even dangerous. Should I be worried? Tohazi replied. He's only 12, and for a boy to be marked like that, he does not look like trouble from a distance. He even helps people do heavy work. I've seen him lift heavy cars at a car repair garage, pound for food at many chop bars, fetch water for several households, and in exchange, they give him food and shelter. He seems like a good kid. Night Eagle was silent, and Lightspeed bit her lip. Tohazi smiled when he realized that discussing poverty felt uncomfortable to Night Eagle. She was just like him. They both had survivor's guilt. Changing the topic, Night Eagle asked, "This god-killing weapon you spoke about, where is it now? You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Tohazi replied, shaking his head. "Here in Accra?" Night Eagle asks. "Jamestown." Tohazi replied with a nod. Night Eagle and Lightspeed were both as surprised as Tohazi had expected. "But those are Akan gods," Night Eagle replied. "Shouldn't their stuff be somewhere in that Shanti region?" "One would think so, but it was here in Uncrime that Obimpe was defeated and imprisoned. This is where the demigods retreated to their realm from. It all happened here." Night Eagle and Lightspeed look at each other, their minds clearly blown. There used to be an honorable guard in place, but now they just charge everyone money to hold the hilt of a sword with promises of good fortune and childbirth. "Do you think that's where Obimpe and Yempel will go?" Lightspeed asks. "That is where I would go if I were them," Tohazi replied. "But there are powerful spells in place to stop them." "Powerful spells or not, I won't take my chances," Night Eagle replied. "My wings are recharged enough, and I think I'm adequately stocked up." She tapped her utility belt on her waist. "We should go there immediately," Night Eagle commanded. "If we're lucky, we might get there before them." Lightspeed, Night Eagle, and Tohazi set off into the bright daylight. Tohazi riding his motorcycle with Lightspeed running nearby as Night Eagle with her eagle wing jetpacks flew overhead.
Chapter 5: The Thunder Slice. As the team made their way to Ajinim's shrine on the outskirts of the city, anticipation hung thick in the air. Night Eagle flew ahead while Tohazi rode below with Lightspeed jogging effortlessly at his side. Soon the shrine's gleaming marble walls came into view. But as they drew nearer, the heroes spotted signs of battle. The ancient shrine lay in ruins, rubble and scorch marks, evidence of vicious magical battle. Lightspeed came to an abrupt stop, eyes wide. We're too late. The demigods are already here. Exchanging an urgent look, the heroes rushed through the towering gates, preparing for the confrontation ahead. Upon entering the compound of the shrine, they find Kweku near the protruding hilt of the Thunder Slice. Obimpe and Yempel turned to face the new arrivals, clearly intending to delay them from reaching the boy. "You get the kid," Night Eagle shouted to Lightspeed. "What should I say?" she asks. "Figure it out," Night Eagle responds. Lightspeed nodded and dashed towards Kweku in a blur, leaving Night Eagle and Tohazi to meet the approaching demigods. One of them was strong enough when she was a human. "What can we do against two of them as spirits?" Night Eagle asked as she drew her retractable blades from her belt. "I have some tricks up my own sleeve," Tohazi said as he pulled out his small carved gourd from behind him. He dips his hand into the mouth of the gourd, and it magically fits, despite the gourd having a small mouth. When Tohazi draws out his hand, he holds up a glowing golden sword. Night Eagle looked at Tohazi in surprise. "Is everything about you in the history books true?" Tohazi seemed to consider this as a compliment and smiled back at Night Eagle. He then slowly walks towards the two demigods, who were surprised to see Tohazi's sword as well. "Tohazi?" Obimpe asked in surprise. Yempel didn't understand why Obimpe mentioned that name. "It can't be," Yempel added as he observed the bald man with black beard holding a glowing golden sword. He remembered the golden sword. "That's the Star Cutlass. It is you." Yempel was surprised. "What happened to your hair?" Obimpe exclaimed with fake laughter. "It's good you remember me, Obimpe." Tahazi replied as he approached the demigods. "There is no way this can end well for either of you. Return to your fortress beyond Afajato, or wherever in the spirit domain, and I'll allow it. But stay, and this will end the same as last time." "Shut up!" Opempe shouted as she angrily shot gale magic towards Tahazi, which he absorbed into his glowing blade. He then swipes his sword at them, sending back the blast. Meanwhile, Lightspeed stops several feet away from Kweku. She sees his hands on the rocks surrounding the thunderslice. Up close, his youth was even more apparent. No more than 12. His eyes practically glowed with raw power. That made Lightspeed tremble inside as he lifted his eyes to look at her. His face was marked with scars that will never heal. Who would do such a thing to a boy his age? As she watched, he wrapped his young hands around the hilt of the sword, almost reactively. Each scar on his face started to glow with ethereal light. How would she reach him? What could she do? She quickly takes off her mask. "Hey there," she said gently. "I'm Janice. What's your name?" The boy looked startled. "My name is Kweku. Why did you take off your mask?" "To show you that this is just me. No mask or tricks." She gave a disarming smile. Kweku absent-mindedly glanced between the sword and Janice. "Kweku, you don't have to do this," Lightspeed urged. Kweku's brow furrowed. "But they said it's my destiny." "Don't listen to them. Destiny isn't something that gets handed to you." She took a deep breath before continuing. "My dad died when I was 12. That seemed to get Kweku's attention. His tribal marks stopped glowing so intently. My mom became obsessed with molding me into the perfect daughter after my dad died," Janice explained. "She wanted me to become a track star, even though I hated running. No matter how hard I trained, I could never meet her impossible standards." She shook her head bitterly at the memory. "When I turned 16, she actually paid some scientists to secretly experiment on me and modify my genes to make me run faster. The experiments went horrible, and I lost both of my legs. And when I could no longer participate in races, my mom dumped me at a care home for years and moved abroad." Janice moved her mask uncomfortably with the hard memories. "My point is, don't let anyone tell you your destiny. They only say that when they want to use you. You get to choose your own path." Kweku looked thoughtfully at Lightspeed. Meanwhile, Tahazi found his hands full, fending off Obembe's unrelenting gale force winds. Nearby, Yempel keeps Night Eagle on the defensive with more blasts of Harmattan shards. Night Eagle does her best to hold her own, but Yempel is merciless in his attacks. When he's able to knock Night Eagle down with a blast of sand, it finally dawns on him that she is only human. This knowledge excited him. "You have no business fighting here amongst demigods and powerful beings," Yempel said as he catches an explosive bomb that Night Eagle threw at him. It explodes in his hand, and he coughs while waving away the smoke. "You could easily be swept aside by any one of the people here." Yempel sent a shard of Harmattan at Night Eagle, and she dodges but felt the cold grip her. "One wrong move by your friends, or one unlucky shot from any of us, and you'll be dead." He shoots another blast at her, which she barely dodges. "And yet you choose to fight here among gods. I respect that," he says. "I'll try to remember you." As Night Eagle hid behind another wall, she felt Yempel's words get to her. He was right. What was she doing here? Tahazi realized Yempel was close to hurting Night Eagle and quickly intervened with an energy strike from his star cutlass. Yempel dodges the blast and regroups with his sister as Tahazi moves to Night Eagle's side. "We can't keep this up," Night Eagle shouted as another roar of wind came shooting over. Tahazi absorbs it into the cutlass and swings it back towards the demigods to force them back. Meanwhile, back at the thunderslice, after a thoughtful pause, Kweku finds himself agreeing with Lightspeed. People only ever call on him when they need something dirty or heavy to be done. All he was doing was standing on the sidelines of a football game when these two came to trick him. No one really cared about him. Kweku felt bitter about it. Lightspeed takes a slow step forward and then wraps her hands gently around Kweku's. Obempe sees Lightspeed and Kweku from a distance and is not happy with what she sees. Without second thought, she hurled a large shard of Harmattan energy at Kweku. Kweku's impregnable skin resists getting stabbed, but the force of the push sends him and Lightspeed hurling into rock. For a moment, Lightspeed finds both her and Kweku's hands gripping the hilt of the unsheathed thunder slice as it pulsates with raw energy. They both look at each other in surprise and immediately drop the sword. A tremendous thunderbolt shook the shrine's foundations. Dark clouds covered the area. The demigods paused their attack, faces paling. Lightning and gusts of wind flowed everywhere. The lightning itself formed the shape of an armored, muscular figure in the skies. "Who dares?" boomed Ajanim, eyes ablaze from his lightning form in the skies. "That's Ajanim, the firstborn of their pantheon," Tazi muttered. He was already etching glowing sigils into the ground, preparing a binding ritual. "That's just his spectral form. He is harmless, so far as he doesn't take human size, like Obempe and Yempel." Lightspeed said in panic, "We can't fight a giant like that. Where do we start? What do we do?" Ajanim towered over them, lightning crackling, his gaze fixed on the thunder slice on the ground near Kweku. As they watched, his towering, godly form shrunk into a human size. Although still taller than the average man, he appeared plump with big cheeks and protruding round pot belly. His voice resonated with raw power. "You will pay for this." He thrust out a hand and living lightning arced towards Kweku. Kweku's tribal marks glowed a furious red as he met the furious demigod's gaze. The boy dwarfed in comparison, but the bolt fizzled on his skin. With a roar, Ajanim opened his palms and called back the thunder slice into his hand. The sword flies into his grip. He moves his sword to cut through Kweku, and the boy jumps out of the way as quickly as he possibly can, fear starting to show on his face. Ajanim pointed the thunder slice skyward. Thunder roared as the clouds twisted and the lightning poured around him like rain. The demigod swept his arms down, unleashing a contusive blast at Kweku, which knocked him down and electrocuted him. The boy screams in agony. Sensing opportunity, Obempe and Yempel rushed forward, conjuring winds to obscure Ajanim's vision, but he was fixated on harming the boy. Before Ajanim could notice, Obempe and Yempel plunged conjured sand and wind blades into his back. Ajanim cried out in rage and pain. Obempe and Yempel continued to conjure and stab Harmattan blades into Ajanim until he sank to his knees and dropped the thunder slice. Obempe quickly picks it up, lifts it, and stabs Ajanim in the back. "I should have known," he croaked. The earth stilled as Ajanim fell into the dirt. The stormy sky returned to a sickly calm, but the air still crawled with relentless energy. Obempe and her brother both held up the thunder slice triumphantly. Crackles and bursts of lightning form around them both like rain, and when everything calmed, they had both vanished. Tazi's face paled with dread. "No!" He slammed his fist into rubble as the demigods disappeared with their prize. They had failed again, and now two vengeful gods possessed the ultimate weapon. Ajanim's fallen body suddenly erupted immediately into a chaos storm. The earth shook violently, lightning and rumbles of thunder filled the skies, and a great tornado formed up, consuming everything. The shrine shook, and the heroes scrambled to find safety in the midst of the chaos. Lightspeed quickly grabs Night Eagle and takes her to safety. She returned quickly, trying to reach Kweku. Before she'll reach him, however, a blast of lightning from the chaos storm connects with her. She cried out as a deadly energy coursed through her body, then collapsed, twitching. The chaos storm quickly passes, leaving the shrine torn down to rubble. Lightspeed had rescued Night Eagle, but was caught under the rubble with Kweku and Tahazi. "Lightspeed, come in!" Night Eagle called into her communicator. She's very terrified for her protege. This is what she feared the most when she brought Janice into this life. "Lightspeed! Janice!" She pulled off stone and wood trying to find Lightspeed. "Please, come in!" She finds Kweku first, his tribal marks glowing furiously. His back was up and his arms planted firmly into the ground. When Kweku rolls over, Lightspeed is curled up with eyes squeezed shut and covered in dust underneath him. She opens her eyes slowly and sees Night Eagle and Kweku looking down at her. All was not well, but she was not in any pain. One of her legs was trapped under a large fallen wall, and it showed exposed wires and metallic bone. "How are you feeling?" Night Eagle asks her. Lightspeed nods to confirm she is fine, but deep down, this only reminded her of the days that the doctor ran tests on her leg and spine. This reminded her of the shock she felt when she woke up one day without legs. Night Eagle moves to stand behind Lightspeed. With some effort, Night Eagle helps Light to wrench her shin from under the fallen wall, severing it from the rest of her robotic leg. A short distance away, a hand breaks out of the rubble, and someone tries to climb out. Kweku quickly goes to offer a hand. Tahazi climbs out of the rubble, and the others find him broken and bleeding in multiple places. Any normal person might need to be in the emergency room, or might probably had already died, but not Tahazi. As they watched, his body started to repair itself, bones snapping back to place, dirt falling out of his open wounds, and his skin resealing itself till he was back to normal. The others are very surprised at what they just witnessed, but Tahazi turned their attention to something else. The chaos storm had not yet ended. It had only passed them and was now headed towards the city. Tahazi explained, "That storm is Ajanim without a mind or vessel. That will just continue until he finds a vessel to contain him." Night Eagle stares back at Tahazi, mind racing. How was she supposed to deal with a chaos storm? Was Yempel right? Did she have no business here? She felt very out of place and out of options. "We need to trap all of that power inside a powerful tree or a human vessel," Tahazi continued. "I will do it," Kweku interjected. "What?" Lightspeed asked. "I can do it. I'm very strong," Kweku replies. "I know you're strong, boy," Tahazi replied, "and I wouldn't consider this if I wasn't sure you could somehow handle this. But why?" "I started this," Kweku said. "All of this happened because of me. Let me help." "That sounds really dangerous," Night Eagle adds. She doesn't like the idea very much. Realization then hits Tahazi. "You've done this before." The boy dropped his head in sadness. "That is why you have those marks," Tahazi added. Night Eagle asked, "Who did that to you?" "My grandfather," Kweku replied. Tahazi raises Kweku's head by the chin and looks down at the scars on the boy's face, considering. "I can do it." Kweku hoped that this will make up for what he did. Tahazi mumbles in disapproval, but seems to agree to Kweku's request. At Tahazi's request, Night Eagle and Lightspeed retreat a short distance away from where Tahazi and Kweku stood alone. Stomping his feet on the ground, Tahazi begins an incantation. The atmosphere responds with a small gush of wind spinning around Kweku and Tahazi. At first, the chaos storm stops moving towards the populated city. The storm then turns around and starts to approach Tahazi and Kweku very quickly. Once close enough, Kweku readied himself, his tribal marks glowing brightly. The chaos storm funnels itself into a ray of white light that Kweku swallows into silence. Kweku's tribal marks continued to glow violently. He gasped, clutching his stomach violently, convulsions racking his small frame. It was as if he'd swallowed a hurricane, gale force winds and lightning whirring inside him for dominance. Though eyes squeezed shut against the pain, he saw the lightning form faces that contorted in silent screams. They clawed at Kweku's mind, howling for release. Kweku turned inward. He envisioned his grandfather's compound, the last place that felt like home. He sees his grandfather holding the knife that he used to mark his face. He then envisions his grandfather's shrine, where his grandfather had imprisoned several malicious spirits, including one particularly powerful force. He envisions the spirit taking the shape of an elephant that bows to Kweku. Kweku bows back to the elephant. He then envisions himself releasing the spirit of the elephant from the shrine. The elephant spirit gives him a second tribal mark. He then envisions the elephant spirit becoming a giant and trampling his entire village underfoot. So many people cradled their deceased loved ones. Kweku looks on in horror. He then envisions his grandfather seeing the second mark on Kweku's face from the elephant spirit. His grandfather is angry. He then envisions his grandfather carving several more tribal marks in his face, a casting of powerful incantations to trap the spirit of the elephant inside Kweku. The last image Kweku sees is the spirit of the elephant trapped inside a dark space, surrounded by sparks of lightning and electricity. Looking outward again, Kweku's eyes flash white and his body gets covered in angry sparks of electricity that eventually die down until he becomes a normal boy with normal tribal marks. When Kweku rose to his feet again, Tahazi observed him closely to make sure he was still the same boy in control. "I hate that I had to do this to you, boy. I'll make sure to help you remove these spirits." Lightspeed limped back with Night Eagle, and she didn't waste time celebrating Kweku. "Woohoo! You actually saved the city today, Kweku," she said. "She's right," Night Eagle added. "Thank you for doing this." Kweku felt more guilt than pride. Had it not been for him, things wouldn't have gotten this bad. How many people have died or lost from this incident alone? So now, Obempe and Yempel, Night Eagle said grimly, surveying the devastation around Ajinim's shrine. Tazi held up a hand. It wasn't easy stopping them the first time they had the Thunder Slice. And back then, I had help from 4 of the strongest demigods. "Aren't there any of these demigods who can help us?" Lightspeed asked impatiently. "Come on, there's gotta be someone." Tazi stroked his beard thoughtfully before responding. "There may be one way. The demigod's fortress, in the spirit realm beyond Afajatu." Lightspeed interjected. "You mean all the way to the Volta region?" "Yes," Tazi replies. "And we'll need a bosom coin key." "Bosom what now?" Lightspeed interrupted again. "A bosom coin," Tazi explained. "A spirit key that opens access to various spirit domains." Night Eagle crossed her arms. "Do you have a bosom coin?" Tazi smiled slightly. "As fate would have it, I do. I'll find it and meet you at your nest." As Tahazi walked away with Night Eagle and Lightspeed, Kweku stayed behind indecisively. The 3 stopped and turned around to Kweku. "Are you coming, boy?" Tahazi asks. Kweku brightens up and follows. Chapter 6. Slaying of Gods. Obempe and Yempel, excited to have gained possession of the god-killing Thunderslice. With its immense power at their command, they will change the status quo. Obempe broke into a dance of singing while waving the Thunderslice in celebration. Yempel was quite pleased to see his sister in such good spirits. Do you see, sister? You didn't even need to consume another human soul, Impel proclaimed triumphantly. His sister stopped dancing and laughed out loud as she examined the thunder slice, bolts of lightning flashing ominously around it. You know, Makonnen said, I don't spend enough time appreciating you, brother. You really do compliment me. Thank you. I will do anything for you, sister. I need you, Impel replies. I need you too, brother, Abempe replies. There's an awkward silence as the two look at each other intimately. Yimpel cleared his throat awkwardly and changed the topic. Now, the rest of the buzzing of the thunder slice in her hand caught her attention again. None would dare stand against them now. They sliced the hole through the natural realm, opening a shimmering portal. Holding hands, both demigods crossed the threshold together as the portal resealed itself. Meanwhile, the unlikely team of heroes had regrouped at Night Eagle's nest. Lightspeed laid on a metal bed with her severed leg connected to a huge machine. Night Eagle broke the silence. I'm sorry for dragging you into all of this, Jan. I never imagined it would be this intense. How are you holding up? Lightspeed blinked in surprise at the personal question. I'm okay. Just trying to wrap my head around literal gods trying to take over Accra, you know? I should have been better prepared. Now people have suffered because of my failings. What? Night Eagle holds her hand. No way. You've saved so many lives today, Jan. You should be proud. Lightspeed replied. Perhaps. But this is bigger than anything I've faced before. I just hope we can stop those bullies. The only way we lose is if we give up, and we won't. Lightspeed then smiled and said, I'm glad you're the one saying that. Now take your own advice and stop wallowing in pity like you aren't doing your best against these big idiots. Night Eagle tilted her head in confusion. Don't give me that look, Lightspeed replied. You think I haven't realized that you've been beating yourself up since we returned from Ajinim's shrine? You're doing that thing where you feel like you should have been more prepared. You are always prepared. I don't know what the demigods said to you, but you have to shake it off because it's not true. You're like a housefly on poop. You never give up, no matter what. Night Eagle smiled underneath her mask, shaking her head at Janice. Night Eagle pulled Lightspeed into a brief hug. Thank you, Night Eagle said. But on a more serious note, how are you? Night Eagle asked after the hug. I'm just so angry this thing is taking so long, Lightspeed said with a groan. 10% this whole time. How can I go to a fudgeto if this isn't ready? Night Eagle gave her hand a tight squeeze. I know, Lightspeed replied. It would have been nice though. Kweku shifted uncomfortably at the entrance. Lightspeed turns and smiles at him. Night Eagle decides to leave them alone. While Night Eagle retreated, Lightspeed and the boy Kweku shared an awkward silence. Kweku stood beside the bed, feeling out of place and guilty. Lightspeed decided to strike up a conversation. So, Kweku, where are your parents? They died when I was 8 years old, Kweku replied as he looked outside a window into the city. He looked like he had to give that answer many times and was now desensitized by it. Lightspeed nodded sympathetically. I'm sorry for your loss. What are you going to do after all this craziness is over? She asked. The youthful boy shrugged, uncertain. Me? I don't know. When I think I'm doing something good, then there's a problem. After a short pause, Kweku asked, What do you think I should do, Janice? I think you should stay. With us, Lightspeed replied. Surprised, Kweku asked, Why? Why not? Lightspeed replied without hesitation. My boss, Night Eagle, is really into helping special people like us. She can totally help train to control your powers better. And she's super loaded. You could still have a normal life, probably too. Kweku asked, seeming to consider the possibility. What about the man in red? Who is he? Oh man. Tohazi is a whole other deal. Lightspeed launched eagerly into his explanation. He's not a superhuman like me. He's some kind of ancient, immortal warrior from centuries ago. Night Eagle told me that back then, he was called the Red Hunter. Kweku's eyes widened. Is he a demigod too? Lightspeed shook her head. Nah, not a demigod. Tohazi is known as the Slayer of Gods. At the boy's enthralled look, she continued. He's famous for slaying gods who abuse mortals. Different stories say Tohazi's wife was killed through the selfishness and recklessness of gods. Though heartbroken, he killed all of them and became an immortal as a result. But he's so ancient that they can't tell if this is a combination of multiple stories or his original origin. Heck, we don't even know if that's how it may have even happened. Only Tohazi knows, and Tohazi won't tell. Heads up. Tohazi has the bosom coin now. He's coming up. The elevator door dings open, and Tohazi walks in with a rich and ancient-looking kente cloth folded on one arm. Tohazi's face was stoic, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made him bristle with barely contained power. Lightspeed continued her story, whispering to Kweku. One thing for certain is, though, throughout his stories, he has never taken it easy on gods, she said. Wherever he goes, gods ceased to exist. He is the reason gods no longer walk the earth in physical form. Kweku gulped. For the first time, the full weight of exactly who and what Tohazi was struck him. This was no mere being. This man was a legend, a figure of myth come to life. Night Eagle may be the best mentor for Lightspeed, but if there was anyone he wanted to be like, it's Tohazi. Night Eagle emerged from the private chamber she was previously in. She waved at Tohazi to invite him in to join her in Lightspeed's room. That's the bosom coin? Somehow I thought it'd be a literal key or some relic, Lightspeed said as she observed the rich traditional kente cloth that Tohazi held. A key requires a door. The bosom coin is the key and the door, Tohazi replied as he looked around the room for a place to fit the cloth. He settles on a wall across from Lightspeed's bed. He then turns around to face the other three. Tohazi spoke with calculated words. Where we're going is unlike anything any of you have ever witnessed in your lives. The beings in this realm are dangerous, and they don't have a lot of restraint. I'll not think any less of you if you decide to stay behind. The graveness of his voice communicated that he wanted to do this alone. He spent his whole journey here preparing this speech because in truth, he would have rather done this alone. He had failed to stop Obempe twice in the same day with the help of his allies, and he felt like he may have a better chance if he went in alone. Those two are threatening my city. I'm coming, Night Eagle said, holding her fully stocked tactical utility belt. Me too, Kweku replied. Lightspeed and Night Eagle looked at the boy in surprise. They tricked me. I will not let them win, he added. Tohazi bites back his response and turns back to the wall behind him. He recites an incantation, and throws the cloth against the wall, where it remains held up by unseen nails. The patterns on the kente cloth start to glow and move like worms in a labyrinth. They stood tensely as the portal ripped open before him. Tahazi takes out his Nkosha bow from the gourd as he hoped he wasn't leading these two to certain death. He then crosses the threshold into the spirit cloud, and when he gives the sign, Night Eagle follows, and then Kweku comes in as well, making sure to take the bustling cloth with him in order to close the portal. Lightspeed looked at the mooring of the machinery covering her leg and sees that it's barely 50% complete. She groans impatiently and tries to make sense of it. Chapter 7: Clash of Gods. Tazi stepped through the shimmering portal, eyes scanning the silent marble halls before him. Behind, he heard the footsteps of Night Eagle and Kweku follow. Night Eagle noticed that the air here tasted different, charged somehow, like the gathering static before a storm. "This place gives me the chills," she muttered. She then frowned, one hand resting on her belt. "It's too quiet. Where are all the guards?" Tazi nodded grimly. In all his past visits here, the halls had divine beasts guarding it. He led them deeper into the stronghold, senses on high alert. As they walked, Night Eagle fell into step beside young Kweku. She studied the boy thoughtfully before speaking. "You didn't have to do this, you know. This is no place for a 12-year-old. Kweku chewed his lips, gathering his thoughts. When he finally replied, his voice was steady with conviction. "Me, I have this power inside," he said finally, voice echoing slightly. "But it only causes problem. I want to use my power to help, like him." Tazi smiled, though his eyes remained vigilant for threats. "A noble thought, Kweku, but you still have a full life ahead of you. Perhaps set your sights on more earthly goals for now, eh?" Kweku's jaw set stubbornly. Further debate had to wait, as the passage opened into a massive chamber, and two lumbering beasts blocked their path. Each thunder ox stood over 7 feet at the shoulder, gray armored hide covering massive frames. Sharp horns jutted forward from bovine skulls wreathed in cackling energy. Every breath was impending lightning strike. Kweku and Night Eagle pulled out short, eyes wide. Neither had seen the eldritch guardians of the Ghanaian before, but Tahazi was already in motion, ethereal arrow drawn to his ear as he circled left, shouting, "Night Eagle, right flank!" Night Eagle responded quickly by shooting explosive darts at one of the thunder ox to draw its attention. The creature rounded furiously, just as Tahazi's arrow sank deep into its eye. Howling, it stampeded past him, blindly towards Kweku. Kweku planted his feet and seized both lethal hands in his bare hands, his tribal marks glowing a bright blue. The second thunder ox charged straight for Night Eagle. She poised cold cunning in his deathless eyes. It swung, but Night Eagle was already airborne, Blinks landing deftly atop the beast's broad shoulder. She snapped off a scanner shot, analyzing weakness. Information flooded her retina display. Meanwhile, Tazi circled left, loosing a fury of ethereal bows at the monster's legs and flanks. Most glanced on its thick hide, but several found chinks in the armor eliciting bellows of rage. Quickly, Night Eagle peppered her thunder ox with explosive darts seeking the weak points her scanner had mapped. Now, rounded her, straight into the path of Tahazi's oncoming ethereal arrow. The arrow sank deep into the beast's skull. Howling, it toppled with a deafening crash before turning into a black ash pile. Kweku's thunder axe paused to blast lightning point blank on his horns, but instead of dodging, the boy held fast, screaming as lethal energy blasted through them, brightening up the entire area. When the light faded, Kweku was unharmed. Gripping harder, he shifted the Thunder Ox's head sideways, and glowing cackling energy visibly transferred from east to west. Abruptly, the thing went limp, crashing sideways dead as Kweku staggered back, covered in flickering currents. Tazi's eyes narrowed at this unexpected display as he shifted his grip on the untouchable. In absorbing its vital spark, Kweku had unintentionally drawn a fragment of Ajinim's essence as well. Could this eventually cause Ajinim to take over his body? Meanwhile, in a vast hall lined by pillars of white marbled vein with gold, Obempe Nyempel stood on one side as Bediako and Bokoi, the warrior gods, flanked Kumi, the twin brother of Ajinim. Kumi had felt the death of his brother and immediately rallied the war gods to help him. Behind them, Kumi had brought a handful of thunder oxen creatures to intimidate their enemies. If he is truly dead, he'll simply be reborn as an infant, she said flippantly. Happens all the time. You'll see your dear old brother again in 15 to 20 years or so. We did not come here to argue, Lord Kumi, Yempel interjected smoothly. Rather, to offer you the rarest of opportunities. Together, we still wield power enough to reclaim lost dominions. No more languishing forgotten, free once more to taste royal devotion, to revel in pleasures long denied us. Of course the mortals will resist at first, she acknowledged lightly. Revolutions can be so messy. But gods cannot be denied forever. Bediako said boldly. We're wasting away here as well. Let our axes remind mortals to fear the divine once more. Kumi rounded furiously on the war twins. You idiots! You have learned nothing from past uprisings. The path ends only in chaos. No, it ends in victory, Ekoi shot back. Victory for any with the vision to seize it, like Obempe and Yempel. Enough! Kumi thundered, voice booming off marble columns. You twins were ever impulsive, but this treason cannot stand. Kumi straightened slowly, sparks dancing dangerously across his frame. Here we go again, Obempe. After 400 years, we're right back here again. Last time, you made me fight my brother. But now, you've murdered Ajinim to use his blade for your warmongering. You want the thunder oxen, he bellowed, forcing Obempe back a step. Then by sacred law, I challenge you to single combat here and now. To the death, we shall see who Yangpong favors. Obempe sighed, examining the thunder slice. Pity, but your petty tantrums shan't hinder my destiny. I accept. Kumi struck first, a brutal overhead slash. Quick as storm winds, Obempe slipped inside his guard and smashed the thunder slice full into his breastplate. Kumi staggered, righted himself, then unleashed 3 savage strikes in blistering succession. His speed and finesse with the heavy-looking thunder hammer was incredible, Obempe pointed out. But for all that, Obempe matched his thunderous blows with empowered hits from the thunder slice. Kumi may not remember it like her, but she fought him with these same weapons 400 years ago and killed him. Lightning and wind flailed violently around the divine warrior. Back and forth they fought, hammering relentlessly, but Obempe had landed more blows. Kumi slowed fractionally, movements losing their surety. With a feral grin, Obempe twisted past his guard and slashed viciously. Growling, the lightning god sank to his knees, weapon falling from a mangled hand. Obempe stood over him, thunder slice angled precisely at his throat, just like the last time. In that motion of distraction, Kweku broke from cover, racing towards Obempe while shouting, "No!" But quick as thought, the goddess waved, shooting a blast of automaton that knocked Kweku flat. Night Eagle was forced to dive for cover as well, recovering the confusion from Kweku's actions. Tahazi broke cover, and loosed a sparkling arrow straight at the goddess's heart. But Obempe sensed it coming and neatly sidestepped, slicing Kumi's head from his shoulders in the same motion. Silence fell, marred only by the headless demigod's body slowly disintegrating into golden dust. Bediako and Bokoi stared, frozen in disbelief, as Kumi's head disintegrated as well. They felt mixed about it, but focused on the battles and wars that are to come under the conquerors. Obempe lowered the bloody thunder slice and turned to face Tahazi and his allies, victory etched in her slitted eyes. "My leniency rapidly wanes, Tahazi," she declares. Yempel glided to her side, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "They shall learn, as well as all the realms in time." To Bediako and Bokoi he called, "Seize the mortals!" Night Eagle tensed, ready to sell her life dearly. The warrior twins stalked forward, axes glinting cruelty. Suddenly, Kweku darted forward, snatching up the Nkoshe bow, almost too big for his small grip. Gritting his teeth, the youth yanked back the bowstring. Blinding energy ignited atop the ethereal arrow that formed in the bow. "Kweku, no!" Tazi cried in dismay. He knew all too well the terrible price for mortals who dared to wield his ancient weapon. Too late, with instinctive precision, Kweku loosened the shining missile straight at Obempe. A cry of denial burst from Yempel's lips as he dove into the arrow's path. It punched clean through his torso to erupt out his back in a spray of glistening red blood. Kweku fell too, dropping the bow as mystical backlash slammed his body. The look on his face screamed that he already regretted his rash impulse, but the damage was done. He felt like he had just grown, very slightly, but it was obvious. He felt slightly taller, and his mind felt different to that it was before he pulled the bow. Meanwhile, Obempe wailed, catching Yempel as his legs gave out. Bediako and Bokoi gathered around their stricken lord as Tahazi rushes to Kweku's side. "Brother!" Obempe wailed, cradling Yempel's smoking body. His form had already begun decaying. His fingers crumbled to ash. "This isn't how demigods are supposed to die," Bediako said. "Sister, I'm sorry," Yempel choked. "Yempel, please," she sobbed, clawing weakly at Obempe's tunic. Her brother disintegrated steadily to dust before her eyes. Silence engulfed the hall. All eyes remained locked on Obempe's hunched figure. She lifted her head, eyes smothering with rage and loss. Night Eagle recoiled at the fathomless pain reflected there. Kweku shuddered as her face fixed directly upon him. "You!" Obempe said with rage and anguish. "You killed him!" Kweku's face was a mixture of confusion and fear as he threw up his hands in surrender. "It wasn't me. I didn't do it." This confused Night Eagle. Why did Kweku say it wasn't him? Dark power whirled to life around Obempe. With a wretched cry, she conjures a large blast of lightning and homicide into the waiting thunderstorms. As they watched, several thunder-ups rose to stand behind her. Acting fast, Tazi takes out the Celtic card from his oracle and says the incantation to activate it. "Hurry!" they cried, realizing what Tahazi had just done. Night Eagle immediately takes out a smoke bomb and pops it around her. Tahazi hastily pulled Kweku towards the glowing portal. Night Eagle scrambled after him. She crashed to her knees on familiar smooth flooring. They were safely back at Nest headquarters. Panting hard, Night Eagle stared around at her companions in fresh disbelief. By rights, none should have survived. But how would they ever overcome a goddess of Obempe's might? Just then, Lightspeed rolled in, casually licking an ice cream cone, new alloy legs glinting. Hey guys, welcome back. She froze, staring at young Kweku. Does time flow differently in the spirit realm? Chapter 8. Rise of Heroes. Now regrouped in Nest, after Tahazi's summary of the events in the spirit realm, Lightspeed asked with surprise in her voice, Kweku did what? Night Eagle interjected sternly, what happened out there? She was looking at Kweku. Me, I don't know, Kweku replied with innocent surrender. It's not me that did it. I was hiding there, no. I started running to Obimpe, he explained. Tahazi thought to himself that both times that Kweku acted out of character was either to stop Obimpe from killing Kumi, Ajinim's brother, or to kill Obimpe on impulse, which is likely in response for killing Kumi. So does that mean Kweku is 13 years old now? Lightspeed asked. Tahazi mumbled thoughtfully as he nodded in confirmation. Please figure it out, Night Eagle said to Tahazi, and then turned to Lightspeed. We need to suit up properly for what's coming next. Let's go topside. Lightspeed nodded and followed her mentor up the glass elevator to the top floor hall that had a landing pad. A selection of Night Eagle's armored suits and specialized gear stood ready near the edge. There's also a complex spherical robot that looks to be still being built. Night Eagle removed her mask and went on to stand next to a nicely carved vase with a sprouting tree in it. She confessed, when I first became Night Eagle, it was to take down criminals like my good-for-nothing parents, corrupt politicians. As she spoke, she carefully watered the plant. Evil corporations, drug dealers, that's what I trained for. She sighed, putting down her watering can. We're in way over our heads here. These demigods are on a whole other level. And Obimpe, her brother, the look in her eyes. How could we stand against a being like that with nothing to lose? Bullies, Lightspeed said. That's what you taught me to call them. Let's call them what they are. And what do we do with bullies? You know, you can sometimes come off as carefree and overly positive about everything. I do? Lightspeed laughs. Yeah, it can get annoying, but it's also impressive that you can super speed your thinking through all scenarios and settle on the only best outlook. Well, thank you. I have a great teacher, Lightspeed replied with a smile. Night Eagle smiled and slipped on her sleek black mask, resolve hardening. Now suit up, we've got a goddess to stop, Night Eagle said as she unveiled the blue and white armor design of Lightspeed's uniform. Meanwhile, back in the main computer room, Tahazi took out his gourd and hung it on a hook nearby. Come, Tahazi beckoned to Kweku. We too must prepare. He walked straight into the mouth of the gourd and vanished into it. Kweku hesitated only a moment before following him through the gourd's surface, not knowing what to expect. As the opulent interior materialized around him, Kweku's eyes darted around eagerly, trying to take it all in. Before he could make sense of everything, a disembodied voice boomed. Identify yourself, intruder. Kweku yelped as the area appeared to shake and ripple, ready to devour him. But Tahazi stepped forward unconcerned. That is enough, talisman. He is with me, he declared. The attack halted instantly. You must forgive Talisman. He is fully sentient and can be quite enthusiastic to defend. Kweku just nodded and spoke out to the empty space, pulse still racing. Hello, Talisman. My name is Kweku, but people call me Tribal Mark. The disembodied voice of Talisman replied with mockery in it. Yes, I. Is it because of the tribal marks that day upon your face, child? Tahazi shook his head and went on to his armory. As Tahazi's armor came off, They cleaned themselves with some arcane magic. Kweku's eyes lingered on the carved and kosher bow that had affected him so dramatically. The disembodied talisman said to Kweku, "It was crafted by a committee of spiritualists them. Each arrow steals 1 year from the archer's life." Kweku shuddered, understanding why he had suddenly aged. Memories of his body aging flashed through his mind. If he used it some more, he could lose more years of his life. Kweku swallowed and tore his eyes away from the bow, promising never to touch it again. "Wait, you have already used it?" Talisman said with shock in his voice. "He has, and not now, Talisman. Kweku needs your help with something else." Twice beyond Afajato, Kweku lost control of his body and acted differently. "Any ideas?" "Sure, make I have a look-see," Talisman replied. A beam of light immediately hit Kweku from the bottom of the gourd home. Inside, Tazi observed the magic that flowed around Kweku from the light beam. When the light beam died off, Tazi asked, "Ajnim?" Talisman replied slowly, "Yes, I. But something else I want. Something ancient, something primal." He suddenly sounded enthusiastic again. "That makes sense. Tell me, Kweku, how good did you aim with the Nkoshe?" "Very true," Tahazi replied. "Why do you ask?" And then realization hit his face. "Oh, I see." Talisman replied with a smirk in his voice. "Yes, Kweku can tap into all of Ajinim's power, skills, and instincts. Kweku, you now have Ajinim's lightning control and weather manipulation. But using them could let him influence your mind." "Eh?" Kweku asked in surprise. "Me, I don't want him to control me again, oh." "Him can't," Talisman replied. "At the very least, not for a long time." Tazi turned to Kweku, looking into his scarred young face. "With Ajinim's storm magic, you may be our best chance against Obempe. But what's about to happen next?" "Tohazi," Kweku interrupted, mentioning Tohazi's name for the first time. "I said I'm going to help. It was me who took the thunder slice. I would take it back from them." Tahazi nodded, noticing something different about the boy aside from his height. Tahazi then took him to a chamber full of outfits on racks. "I think you'll find your fit. Take your pick." Kweku looked around, choosing a selection of different armor and clothing. When he was finished, he showed up wearing a black streamlined armor with red accents along the black boots and a red cape that had a hoodie attached. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders beneath the cape. He thought of life's speed and the second chance Tahazi had given him. This time, he would make them proud. "Interesting choice," Tahazi pointed out as he turned from a bookshelf to show his freshened red hunter armor with a red cape attached. He read from the book he was revising one more time before he shut it and put it away. Tahazi then moves past Kweku to a table nearby. He presented Kweku with an elegant sword marked with strange runes. "Here's my star cutlass," he rumbled as he passed the sword to the boy. Kweku hesitated before taking it, remembering the effects of the bow. "Wawulu," Kweku exclaimed as he familiarized himself with the sword's perfect balance. Tahazi picked up his mystical and kosher longbow. He then stopped Kweku with a heavy hand on his shoulder before they left. The ancient warrior's eyes were knowing. "Will you be all right?" Tahazi asked. Kweku clicks his tongue as he nods in reply. Tahazi sighs as if uncertain if he's making the right choice. He finally speaks. "When this is all over, we will work together to unlock all the secrets of your power. But today, you must do everything I ask, okay?" Kweku met the intensity of the ageless gaze and nodded again. For the first time, he felt the promise of true belonging if he allowed this man to guide him. Tazi led the way out of the gourd home. "Talisman, bye-bye," Kweku said. "Yes, blessed luck," Talisman replied. Back at the nest, Tazi and Kweku find that Night Eagle and Lightspeed had also upgraded their gear. They looked up at Kweku and Tahazi in surprise. "Kweku, you look epic," Lightspeed said, causing Kweku to blush. "Is he going to be all right?" Night Eagle asked Tahazi as she eyes the star cutlass in his hands. He's got Ajanim helping him, Tahazi said. Ajanim? The bully? Lightspeed said. Yes, I have all his powers, Kweku said to them. It was he who made me shoot Yampel. And we're relying on him? Night Eagle asked. No, it's me, Tribal Mark, Kweku replied boldly. Something had changed about him. Night Eagle also noticed it. I can use my Encarcer to find where those demigods will strike first, Tahazi said. No need, Lightspeed said. Hashtag the end of time and hashtag Armageddon are trending online. Her fingers were flying over her keyboard. There's posts about hurricane winds tearing up stalls and lightning setting fires. It's total chaos. Night Eagle clinched as live footage of panicked market goers fleeing across the screen. They had mere minutes before the death toll would start to climb. Kaneshi Market, Night Eagle said grimly, is near the heart of Accra. And if we don't stop Obimpe now, she won't just destroy the market. She'll break the city's spirit, and that's a blow I will not allow. She punched up the holographic model of the market, highlighting tactical positions. Here's the plan. Chapter 9. Heroes and Gods. There were dark, mystical clouds floating above the crowded streets of Kaneshi Market, with several people making videos for social media. The dark clouds suddenly appeared to fall down to the ground, causing terrified civilians to stampede in different directions, while some stayed to record videos for social media. Police had started arriving on the scene in bits. That's when everyone catches sight of a bald man with a big beard wearing an ancient red armor riding on a motorcycle. He stops nearby and walks to stand underneath the dark mystical clouds, to everyone's surprise. There, Tahazi saw through to the spirit realm beyond Afajato. Obimpe stood on the other side, staring back at him. Her face was marred with dry tears. She looked like she had been weeping for a long while. Isn't all of this unnecessary? Tahazi asks her. Causing chaos isn't going to make people like you. No one likes a bully. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here for vengeance. I'm here to kill that boy. And I'm taking as many of you with him as I can. And then what? You'll feel satisfied? You'll feel wanted? Tahazi questioned. You weakened your entire pantheon, all in your quest for power. And now that you have it, you're using all of it to challenge one little boy? You really don't know what you want, do you? That little boy killed my brother. When the Thunder Slice kills demigods, they get reborn as babies, Obimpe replied, observing her Thunder Slice intently. But your weapon killed him, permanently. You brought him into this yourself, Tahazi replied calmly. You gambled with power, and you paid the price. Just take the brothers you have left and leave. You don't get it, do you? I'm not leaving till I've killed that boy. She struck with the Thunder Slice. This ripped open the portal between realms and sends a strike towards Tahazi. He dodged the blade, but the electrical Hamaton trail sent him crashing into a light pole, knocking it down. The portal rips open properly in Kaneshi Market, causing the skies to darken further and the air to become dry. People's skin turned ashy pale, with some developing sores. When Tahazi recovered, he stopped, demoralized at the sight he saw pouring out of the portal. Hordes of twisted thunder oxen poured out. Acting quickly, Tahazi shoots his ethereal bow at the thunder oxen, trying to thin their numbers. Suddenly, Beriako and Bakoi, the warrior twins, burst out of the portal and attacked Tahazi with a combination of their attacks, hitting him through the streets of Kaneshi, crashing through light poles and several kiosks. Tahazi soon finds his back on the floor. Check it out, Beriako, Bakoi drawled. The great slayer of gods himself. I must confess myself unimpressed. I agree, his brother Bakoi smirked. Kumi and Ajinen made him sound taller. You two need to start thinking of yourselves. instead of following your siblings to every war. So as he stood and looked at them, "This is not your fight." "Oh, but it is now," Bekwe snarled. "As our names say, we came to fight. We came to war." Bediako nodded, hefting his crackling axe. "If you have a bloodier war for us, you can invite us to fight for you." Some policemen nearby had heard enough and fired their weapons at the war gods. "Humans, just what we came for," Bekwe said. Bediako rushes to face the police. The Ghana police opened fire on the demigods, but their bullets were like plastic pebbles striking the armor. "Watch this," Bediako calls to his brother. Bullets pinged harmlessly off his armor as he descended, his smoldering gaze fixed on swarming police vehicles. With a roar, he slammed his axe down. The shockwaves pulverized concrete and flung police cars through the air like toys. "That's like 24 prayers," he turned to his brother and said as more bullets struck his armor. "Ah, Tupac, watch this," Bekwe replied as he looked around to pick his targets. Officers scattered in panic, their cries silenced as Bekwe lashed out, his large axe splitting a police truck with the policeman in front of it in two halves. Blood misted the air. Bediako laughed and said, "You couldn't even get a dozen." "I didn't learn properly," Bekwe replied. "I wanted to swing the axe butts." "Excuses, excuses," Bekwe replied with raucous laughter. "It would have been quite a loss if we had sided with Kumi back there. He has no foresight at all." Bekwe chuckles. "I used to feel bad about our decision to leave Kumi, but when I felt the impact of the axes striking these mortals, I found that I had made the best choice of this lifetime." The two took perverse joy in painting the streets crimson. Shortly thereafter, the team of heroes arrived at Kaneshi Market. Lightspeed had run there, and Night Eagle had flown in with Kweku using her jetpack wings. The civilians gathered around, gawking at their presence, wondering how this group of colorful individuals were going to protect them. Most of them recognized Night Eagle and started to call to her to save them. As planned, Lightspeed zipped into action, rapidly evacuating civilians to safety blocks away. Night Eagle takes flight and uses her explosives to draw the attention of the Thunder Oxen in an effort to herd them. "Hey!" Kweku shouted to Bediako. "Why don't you pick on someone your own size?" The angry demigods came rushing with his axe raised. Meanwhile, Lightspeed blurs through the market at super speed, snatching civilians to safety. The HUD on her visor calculated different paths and risks, allowing Lightspeed to think ahead, focusing on her role as guardian angel. Citizens gasped in wonder as the market women around them vanished in a gust of wind, different colored spices blasting into the air. The most dangerous paths were in the way of Bediako and Bekwe's rampage, as well as the path of the Thunder Oxen that Night Eagle was attempting to herd. Some people fell as they tried to flee the attack and stampede, and Lightspeed was there to support them and move them to safety. She had a problem with saving some people who she could not carry, but she had to think fast. She finds a wheelbarrow seller and borrows one to help her evacuation. At super speed, she snatched up handfuls of market women, chocho drivers, and all different people at Kaneshi Market to relocate them far from peril. There was no time to rest. She pushed her speed to its limits. This couldn't save everyone, but it was something. Night Eagle recognizes the police lieutenants commanding the rescue unit, Lance Winston. Some policemen draw their guns on her, but she ignores them and walks up to Lieutenant Gemfi, who asks her what's going on. The big guys with the axe serve a woman with a big sword who wants to destroy Accra because we didn't want her to become president. "Did you tell her the election isn't until next year?" Gemfi replies. "That's what we've been trying to tell her. But you know, some people are just hard to convince," Night Eagle replies. The police people lower their guns in confusion. Well, at least you tried. Now what? She can't be president if there are no voters, Night Eagle said as she took off into the skies. After one look at the war gods, the captain gives the orders to follow Lieutenant Gemfi. Kweku duels Bediako, channeling Ajinim's power through the Star Cutlass. Kweku feels an urge to unleash more power, but he's afraid of using too much force. But Bediako is unforgiving. Kweku glimpses a memory of his grandfather striking him with a cane like that many times. He gets really angry, and before he knows it, Bediako's head is rolling on the ground as the demigod disintegrated. Bekoi, who is facing Tohazi in battle, feels his brother's fall and cries out. Something very powerful shifted inside Kweku, something more powerful than Ajinim. He feared for his friends and the city of Accra if the spirit ever came loose. But the spirit didn't shift again after that. And when Kweku opened his eyes again, he saw his feet were hovering just above the ground. He tests his abilities a little bit and shoots up in excitement as he discovers he can now fly. Night Eagle leads a herd of thunder oxen away from the civilians and towards Kweku. That was a great job, Kweku, Night Eagle says over her comms. Would you like another plate? Bring them to me, Kweku declared as he flew in Night Eagle's direction. He meets the thunder oxen head-on, and by the time he had passed all of them, they had all been destroyed. Night Eagle lands next to Tohazi and says, I'm guessing you weren't able to convince her to stand down. What do you think? Tohazi replied. Kweku flew back to meet them and says, if we can't talk to her, then we have to defeat her. Kweku's right, Lightspeed said as she zoomed in. We need to stop these bullies here. At the same moment, Obempe emerged from the portal, holding the thunder slice. She saw Bekoi still sad from the loss of his twin. She landed on the bloodied ground next to Bekoi and lay a reassuring hand on his broad shoulder. Bekoi brandishes his axe, fury rising inside him. Even before they showed up, the sound of the hooves of the thunder oxen could be heard. The heroes regrouped. Night Eagle's wrist blades shoot out with a steely rasp as she assembles a blister and activates it. Tohazi recites an incantation and draws an ethereal bow inside it, looking deadly and ready. Kweku continues floating with his grip firmly on the hilt of the Star Cutlass, his red cloak flapping in the wind as strikes of lightning bathed him. Lightspeed jumps in place, impatiently waiting her next command. Night Eagle gives the command. New plan. Red Hunter, you stop that bully Bekoi. Lightspeed, you stay here with me. We draw the line here for those monsters. And Tribal Mark, get the thunder slice. Obempe turns around in time to meet Kweku's attack. He reaches inside for all of Ajinim's skills and is rewarded with special moves after special moves. But since they aren't his skills, it's all just for show. And soon, Obempe a sprawling marble hall beyond Afajato. Obempe quickly regained her footing, fixing Kweku with a calculating stare. Kweku, Kweku, she purred, voice dripping with false sympathy. Kweku, look at you, so young and full of potential. But do you really think those so-called heroes truly understand you? Kweku hesitated, doubt flickering in his eyes. They fear you. They never fully accept you. But I can forgive you. I can raise you right. Do you remember where you were? Yempel found you. No, Kweku said firmly, meeting Obempe's gaze. Kweku could only think about Tohazi's kindness, Lightspeed's laughter, Night Eagle's. My parents both died when I was small, and that's when I got my first scar. Kweku points to one of the marks on his face. I am sad that I will not see them again, but I will not destroy Accra because it will not bring them back. I will help people, just like I helped you when you asked for my help. Because when I help people, it makes those people happy, and my pain goes away a little. You can join me. Let us use our power to help people together. For a moment, something flickered inside Obempe's eyes. a glimmer of humanity beneath the rage. But it was gone just as quickly, replaced by cold determination. "You naive boy," she snarled. "You know nothing of a god's pain. Your mortal loss will never compare." With a roar, Obempe launched herself at Kweku, thunder slice crackling with deadly energy. Kweku met her head-on, star cutlets singing as they clashed in a burst of blinding light. Meanwhile, Tazi tells Bekoi to go back and reflect on the loss of his brother. But Bekoi came to fight, and he wasn't going to be moved by words. Tahazi uses a strong blast of an ethereal bow to send the demigod flying back into the spirit realm. Meanwhile, Night Eagle cried out as she was flung hard against the market stall. The wind knocked from her lungs. She choked for breath, blinking against black spots. She sees the stampeding thunder oxen as she had heard it approaching her. She was grateful for all the padding in her exoskeleton. Powering her jetpack wings, Night Eagle forces herself to her feet and takes flight again. They see a large horde of thunder oxen flood the streets. Landing next to Lightspeed and Tahazi, Night Eagle asks with despair in her voice, "How do we stop all that? How do we stop all of this?" "We need a god of our own," Lightspeed replied. Tahazi looks at her with guilt in his eyes. Perhaps she was right. Night Eagle and Lightspeed look at him in surprise as he takes off all the armor and tucks it away in his gourd home. Walking towards the thunder oxen, he floated above the ground. An ethereal being formed around him. He shone bright, and all the thunder oxen approached him against their will. Once they reached his feet, they disintegrated. Night Eagle and Lightspeed were shaken by this massive display of power. Was Tahazi himself a demigod? Or a god even? All the thunder oxen soon disintegrated, leaving an empty street as Tahazi turned to normal and landed on his feet. He appeared very angry and bitter for using such power, and avoids the gaze of Lightspeed and Night Eagle. Meanwhile, Kweku had missed Tahazi's display of power. He wrenched free from Obempe's grip and shot himself into her chest like a cannonball, grappling her sword. She snarled and slashed at him, but Kweku dodged. Obempe grabbed a hold of his cape and used it to throw him through the portal and back into the streets of Koneshi. But that was Obempe's mistake. Lightspeed and Night Eagle meet her at the mouth of the portal with a series of punches and kicks. Lightspeed distracts Obempe as Night Eagle powers a blast. When Lightspeed zips out of the way, Obempe takes the blast in the face and stumbles back. Lightspeed and Night Eagle try to disarm Obempe, but Obempe gets desperate and decides to unleash her full power on the city. She takes to the skies and uses the thunder slice and her own powers to start a strong Hamaton storm. She slashed the thunder slice down, and a bolt of lightning zigzagged through the blade to strike the nearest building. Concrete and glass exploded outwards as the structure collapsed in on itself with a roar. "Kweku, we need that thunder slice now!" Night Eagle commanded. Kweku shot up to meet the demigod. Meanwhile, to the surprise of Tahazi, Thunder Oxen, "Fool! He's brought the guardians of their realm to die here as well," Tahazi exclaims. However, Night Eagle had other concerns. She turned to Lightspeed. "There will be casualties from those buildings that just fell. You take the story building and I'll tackle that house." Lightspeed blasts off in one direction and Night Eagle flies off into the other, leaving Tahazi to face Bekoi and his armored thunder oxen. Night Eagle found the building containing multiple low-cost housing flats. Using her AI to fine-tune the audio she was getting, Night Eagle is able to isolate the sound of a crying child somewhere in the building. No doubt the parent had gone out and left the child locked inside. Feeling the tiredness gripping her, and set out kicking doors down one by one in the series of flats, the building started to dance as well, and Night Eagle knew she didn't have a lot of time. She climbed higher up the 3-story house, kicks down the door in 2 tries, and finds the child who recognized the masked hero and runs straight into her arms. That's where Night Eagle stops to realize that she had led 2 Thunder Rocks into the building with her. They snarled angrily as they tried to climb the stairs after her. One of them fell, breaking all the stairs leading down. The last one made it to the same floor as Night Eagle and faced her and the little boy she held. How was she going to get out of this one? The creature reared its legs and pounced forward at Night Eagle. She reached to her belt for a weapon, anything at all. But before the creature could reach her, the building gave up and the ground opened beneath her. As she falls, Night Eagle shoots her grappling hook, which she attaches to the child's waist. The child is successfully caught by the hook and safely dangled. At this point, she remembered Ernest Adusi and the Bliss Network. She hoped the police had found and arrested him. She wished she had stayed with him instead of fighting gods. Night Eagle braces for impact. Lightspeed arrives shortly thereafter to offer aid. She quickly gets the boy down. To her dismay, however, she finds that Night Eagle wasn't responding. Lightspeed tapped and shook her mentor multiple times, but there was no response. Lightspeed quickly reached for one of Night Eagle's pouches and took out a small purple vial with a tiny syringe attached. Meanwhile, Kweku and Obempe dueled across the sky, crashing through billboards and power lines. All the while, Ajanim raged in Kweku's mind, fighting for control. Kweku shoved him down, teeth gritted. Not now. You're nothing, boy. Obempe hissed as they clashed. Ugly, pathetic, useless boy. No one ever wanted you. You really think these people will accept something like you? Kweku faltered, and in that second of hesitation, Obempe struck. Her blade sliced through his face, leaving a gushing wound across his forehead and cheek. He screamed and fell back, Ajanim roaring fury and hate inside him. More scars on his already scarred face. Kweku remembers that just 24 hours ago, he was some street kid that no one wanted to even play football with. Through eyes filmed with blood, Kweku saw his friends battling desperately below to save lives and homes. He was filled with new hope at the sight of them. You're right. I was nothing, Kweku said. No one wanted me, but every day, I'm choosing to be better. Not bitter. And because of that, I now have my own friends, my own team, and that's why you'll never win. With a shout, he slashed the Star Cutlass down. A wave of blinding energy exploded from the blow, striking Obempe. She screamed as it stripped away her defenses and sent her tumbling from the sky. Kweku caught the falling Thunder Slice with the Thunder Slice in hand. Kweku feels Ajanim's power inside him connect with the sword. Raising the Thunder Slice skyward, Kweku felt the chaos storm build within him, trying to take over. Obempe crashed to the cracked street and lay groaning. Kweku formed all the energy in the Thunder Slice into an energy blast that sent whirling towards Bakoy. Kweku concentrated hard. His eyes and tribal marks glow, and his whole body cackled with lightning like the Thunder Slice he held. The effects were almost instant. All remaining Thunder Rocks stopped moving. They suddenly turned back towards the portal and run back in with their tails between their legs. Soon, all the creatures had vanished into the portal, and as the Hamatan clouds parted, it started to rain. The rain fell on Obempe, waking her. She was crushed, defeated. Tahazi approached her slowly. You craved power so much. Now you've lost it all. The power and Yempel. Don't you dare mention his name! In desperation, she lunged forward, clawed fingers outstretched for Tahazi's throat. But that was Tahazi's intention. He steps aside, stumbling her into the portal. Obempe catches herself short and turns to face Tahazi in anger. She again sees Kweku floating behind him, holding the Thunder Slice. Lightspeed runs up to stand behind Kweku, looking at her. The anger turned to defeat. Tahazi looked at her grimly, but his eyes showed sadness for her. She realizes Tahazi had been right. She had failed. She had lost. The last person she sees is Night Eagle. "Get out of my city!" Night Eagle says as she punches Obimpe's face, sending her falling into the portal. Kweku moved the thunderslice immediately, which caused the portal to close on itself. Kweku then thrust the thunderslice towards Tahazi. "Me, I don't like it. It's too powerful." Tahazi takes out his gourd home, and Kweku drops it inside. He then pats Kweku on the back, feeling a sense of pride in the boy. Lightspeed pats Kweku on the back too, and Night Eagle runs her hand over his head with a smile. Together, they quietly observe the devastation around them. And then it suddenly started. From a short distance away, they heard a man's deep voice shout,
"Chocolate! Yeah!"
The heroes looked around them, not knowing what to expect. They had come to fight for the city, but what if the city blamed them for all of this and were chanting against them?
"Chocolate! Yeah!"
The response came from the gathering crowd. The chant continued as many started applauding, and others just cried and wailed, and they were very relieved to see that it was over. Their heroes had won. No doubt, some people would not join the celebration because of their losses they had endured, and Night Eagle wished she could go to those people right now. She decided that if not her, then her alter ego will. She sees Lieutenant Gemfi, who looked like he had gone through a lot. He nods at her. She nods back. She knew he would have to answer for his ties to a vigilante. Kweku looked at Lightspeed and beamed with smiles, feeling a strong sense of belonging and fulfillment. Chapter 10. Lasting Influence. Driving through the streets of Hacho, heading towards her family house in West Legon, Layla sat back into the plush leather seats of a sedan Uber, exhaling slowly as the city lights blurred past. Layla idly scrolled through her feed, but memories of that horrible night intruded, finding the gruesomely withered corpses, then fleeing for her life from the shadows in the woods. Everyone and their neighbor was creating content about these recent supernatural events that unfolded at Kaneshi Market. One pastor preached, "And that is why you cannot live the life of an unbeliever. We all saw with our own eyes when Satan opened the portal in our own market. It is because of the LGBTQ." Layla swiped up to reveal the next story. 10 things that happened at Kaneshi War that you don't know about. The 9th one will. Some feeds she saw showed people who had recorded parts of the battle and shared. Others showed Night Eagle and Lightspeed helping civilians. One feed showed the head of police's response. "I don't know what you think happened there, but women and men of the Ghana Police Service laid their lives down to protect the city. And we should be celebrating those heroes instead of vigilantes and colorful." Layla swiped up again. Who are these heroes of Accra? We're all familiar with Night Eagle, Accra's flying heroine these past 5 years, and her sidekick Lightspeed, who first showed up last year. If you felt a strong wind rush by you while you were outside, it's likely Lightspeed going to save another life. Now, I know many of you haven't heard of Tribal Mark, but he's quite popular in Nima. Many of my connects in Nima talk fondly about him. They say they always play football with him. And how about Mystic Man? Well, there is very little known about him, but there is a lot of speculation. Some say he is. Layla's phone alarm beeped, and she immediately closed the video she was watching. As one of Ghana's top social media stars, she had an image to maintain after all. Never mind that her entire family was inexplicably murdered. The brand must go on. She wore her social media smile and turned on her Instagram live stream. "Hey guys, I know it's been a while, but as promised, I'm here to answer your questions. First of all, I want to thank you all for your support this last week. It's been hard, and I'm grateful for all the love and support you guys have given me in this difficult time. My lawyers have advised that I don't talk about the event publicly, but what I can say is that is connected to the Kaneshi War. I'm not trying hard to pick up the pieces, but it's not easy. One day I'll be ready to tell you the story as I know it, but not today. Today I just wanted to quickly drop in and say I'm fine, and I'm really grateful for all your support. Thank you. There was an outpour of affection and support in the comment section, which she was glad to see. It helped, but did not fill the hollow space inside her. She bade her followers a good night and got off the phone. Looking outside the window of the car, Layla found herself recalling the primal terror of the dark spirit Obempe invading her body and mind, using her as a weapon. She had been powerless, trapped within her own stolen skin. The sedan pulled up to the guarded mansion in West Legon. As Layla gathered her purse and moved to the exit, her eyes flashed, glowing white for a heartbeat, when she glimpsed at her reflection in the tinted window. She froze, pulse pounding. Just her imagination, right? With a shaky laugh, she walked briskly inside, planning an inspirational post for later that would inspire and uplift her fans. The end.